students, I'm Dr. Anandi. Welcome to my channel Make Biology Simple. For today's video, we are going to see the enzymes lecture 5. Topic is about the regulation of enzyme activity. So we have seen what is enzyme, what is substrate, enzyme substrate complex, active site and all. So for today's session, we are going to see how the enzyme activity is regulated in the living system. So in a system, no reactions will occur unnecessarily. So whenever there is a requirement and it is induced by hormones, these hormones get activated either at the cell level or in the metabolic level, and it starts the initiation of a metabolism or digestion or whatever the requirement of the enzymes it has. So this is how our enzyme activity in a living system gets regulated. So according to the types and classifications, we are going to see what are the ways the enzymes are going to be enzymes going to be regulated. So here we have 5 types of regulation. So first type is about the allosteric regulation. Second one is activation of latent enzyme. Third one is compartmentation of metabolic pathways. Fourth one is control of enzyme synthesis. And the fifth type is about enzyme degradation. So we'll be seeing one by one detailed in the following slides. First, we are going to see the allosteric regulation. Allosteric inhibition. So both are same. It is nothing but the enzymes possess the allosteric site, that is nothing but an additional site. We also called it as an allosteric site. So we know that active site is the place where the substrate binds, but allosteric is it's otherwise called other. Other means apart from the substrate something else will come and bind to the site. So that is meant by allosteric sites. So we have allosteric effectors. So we are going to see what is allosteric effectors and how it is going to regulate the enzyme via allosteric type. So there are certain substances referred to as allosteric modulators. Modulators, either it is an effectors or a modifiers. So effectors or modifiers are both are going to define how when it binds to an active site and what happened after that. So this is what is going to be influence in the allosteric site of an enzyme. So the enzyme activity is increased when it is a positive effector. At the same time, there is another thing they call negative. Negative means it's going to be inhibit or regulate. Both things are going to be done in the same site called allosteric site. So when it is inducing a positive regulation, then it is called effector. So when it is going to be inhibit, it is called modifies or regulator. So if it is called that is called positive allosteric effector or negative allosteric effector. Negative refers for inhibition and positive refers for initiation. That means activation. So both can do by the same by the modifiers at the same site called allosteric site. So we are going to see the mechanism how it's going to be activate. So these are the two. You can see this A. It's at just two sites. One is the active site. The other one is in allosteric site. And second is the type. We can see R. R means relaxed form. T means taut form. T taut. Here T is taut form and R is relaxed form. And see this when it C and F4 are showing the activator and inhibitor. So here A is the taut state and B is the relaxed state. So when an effector bind to the here nothing but it's going showing the systematic representation of how an activator or a positive allosteric activator or the negative allosteric effector is going to do the regulation in an allosteric site. Say for example, this is an active site. So when an effector bind to this, this is called allosteric site. This is called allosteric site, and this is the allosteric site, and this is called active site. So this is very specific for enzyme binding. Sorry, this is very specific for the substrate binding. But these are the effectors, are the positive or negative effectors at the allosteric site. So what happened when when the allosteric effectors bind to the allosteric site? It can either initiate the reaction or it subside the reaction. So either these are only one of the type is going to be handled by the allosteric effectors. So this is a representation for the allosteric sites and their effectors. See for example, and this is a curve that shows that when an allosteric site binds, see what happened, initially it starts the reaction and there is a gradual increase and then further increase and then reaches the saturation. So you can see the S-type curve when compared to the normal enzyme substrate reaction. This is hyperbola curve, this is sigmoidal curve. So we have seen that for ordinary enzyme substrate complex reaction, there is an increase in activity of the enzyme and reaches the saturation. But here you can see that here also it's doing the same thing but in lightly different way. See that it initially starts slowly, gradually increases and then reaches the saturation. But the curve is sigmoidal curve. Both are going to do the same thing but little variation will be there in the graph. One is hyperbola. Hyperbola is a normal enzyme substrate reaction. And allosteric site is the one where you can see the allosteric effectors are doing some function. Or the allosteric effectors role is involved in the enzyme substrate complex. So either it can do positive or negative. Positive means it initiates the reaction and negative effectors means it subsides or inhibit or regulate the enzyme activity. So this is the representation of the diagrammatic representation of the allosteric site when the activators or the modulators bound to the allosteric site. So next we are going to see the feedback regulation. Feedback regulation is very simple. The process of inhibiting the first step by the final product in a series of enzyme catalyzed reaction of a metabolic pathway is referred as feedback regulation. So I'll tell you how it works out. For example, in a set of reaction, for example, glycolysis, glucose is the starting substrate, pyruvate is the end product. So what happened? This in between you can see a series of steps which is also necessary for the conversion of a glucose to a pyruvate. So whenever the pyruvate production is enough or sufficient in a system, what happened? The product itself will go and stop the reaction. So how it is going to stop the reaction is nothing but this product will go and bind to a site in the enzyme and inhibit the first step of the reaction. So for example, in this you can see enzyme 1, enzyme 2, enzyme 3, enzyme 4 is there. So the the product E product, for example, pyruvate. The pyruvate will go and bind to the first step of the reaction, that is called, otherwise it is nothing but rate limiting enzyme or rate limiting step. So this is how it has been controlled. So the product itself can able to control the whole pathway in the very first step of the reaction. So that type of reaction is called feedback regulation. So the example here given us in the pyrimidine synthesis. Pyrimidine means nucleic acid, the base pyrimidine synthesis. For that you can see that carbamyl phosphate and aspartate will combine, and with the help of the aspartate transcarbamylase, the aspartate and the inorganic phosphate is released in the first step. And thereafter so many steps is there, that's why you can see the dash arrows represents like this. In between there is so many steps, and finally we are getting the cytidine triphosphate, CTP. Cytidine triphosphate, CTP, that is one of the base, and this is belong to the pyrimidine base in the nucleic acid synthesis. So when the cytidine triphosphate, that is a product, this is a product, so the product is produced in a sufficient quantity or required amount is synthesized. Now the information is given to stop the reaction. So how it is going to regulate the reaction? This product cytidine triphosphate will bind to the first step of the reaction. The enzyme is called aspartate transcarbamylase in this reaction. So this will stop the further conversion of carbamyl phosphate and aspartate to carbamyl aspartate. So the initial step is regulated. So once it is regulated, therefore the rest of the steps also automatically it gets stopped because there is no available of substrate for the next proceeding steps. So the very simple thing is the feedback regulation defines that the product itself will go and bind to the first step of the enzyme and it regulates or stops the reaction or inhibits the reaction. So this type of regulation is called feedback control. So next we are going to see activation of the latent enzymes. Latent enzymes, I'll tell you what is it. So say for example, I told you in our system, nothing is going to happen unnecessarily. So whenever there is a requirement, our system gets activated and it is going to proceed the reaction. Say for example, here chymotrypsinogen is an enzyme, pepsinogen is an enzyme, plasminogen is a compound. So what happened to this inogen is there, no? So this inogen are representing a proenzymes or otherwise called zymogen. So zymogen means inactive form of enzyme. So in a system, these proteins or these enzymes will be in inactive, and whenever the requirement comes, for example, when you take the food and the protein rich, so that type these proteins are these enzymes are the proteolytic enzyme or protein degradative enzyme. So when we intake of protein is there, so that time the chymotrypsinogen, pepsinogen will come because they have to digest the proteins. So when we take the food in our system or in the food is present in the chyme form in the stomach, these two proteins get activated. But the rest of the time they are in inactive. The inactive means proenzymes or zymogen. So at the time of requirement, this inactive form of enzyme will be converted to active form. How they are going to proceed? So some of the proteins in the structure is getting degraded or digested or cleaved, and the remaining portion is called active part. So that is called chymotrypsin. So pepsinogen is converted to chymotrypsin, pepsinogen is converted to pepsin, and plasminogen is converted to plasmin. So these are the examples given for the latent enzymes activation. So what is that? We'll see in the definition in detail. Latent enzymes are such as inactive. These enzymes are synthesized as proenzymes or zymogens, which undergo irreversible covalent activation by the breakdown of one or more peptide bonds. So I told you, no, this some of the portion is removed whenever there is a requirement. So at the time this unwanted portion, when it removes, it becomes a active form. So conversion of a zymogen to active form is the latent enzyme in activation. So this is another way of regulation of the enzymes. So next we are going to see the same type but here in a different way, both as an active and inactive form. So there are some enzymes which is also regulated or activated by adding a simple phosphate to the enzyme portion. So those type is also possible in our system. Say for example, in our system there is a enzyme called like phosphorylase B. So phosphorylase B, when it doesn't have any phosphate in their amino acid structure, that is protein, then it is called inactive. So whenever it is getting phosphorylase, see this is the position where phosphate is added. So when it is get phosphorylated, then that type of enzyme is called active enzymes. This is another way of regulating our enzyme activity. Earlier we have seen inactive form of zymogen as it converted to a inactive form by breaking some of the peptide bonds or the portion of the protein. Here you can see very simple method. One phosphate is getting activated the enzyme. So that is called phosphorylation. So we see what is it. Certain enzymes exist in the active and inactive forms which are interconvertible depending upon the need of the body. I told you, whenever there is a requirement only this enzymes gets activated. The interconversion is brought about by a reversible covalent modification, namely phosphorylation and dephosphorylation and oxidation or reduction of the disulfide bonds. So this is the way it is getting activated. So the example is phosphorylase B. This is an enzyme. It is getting activated by addition of phosphate. So the phosphate is donated by the ATP. So ATP, the protein kinase will activate this and it is converted to ADP. The remaining one phosphate is attached to the phosphorylase enzyme. So A represents active, B represents inactive. So here in the protein, the serine group, that is serine hydroxyl amino acid, will accept the phosphate. So you can see that serine O phosphate will be there. So whenever the protein is getting phosphorylated, then it is called active form. So when the function or the requirement is over, it has to come back to its original form, that is inactive form. So at that time, the another enzyme will come and help, that is called phosphatase. Phosphatase is nothing but removal of phosphate. It removes the phosphate from the serine portion of the protein and then it is now become dephosphorylated form. So when it is coming back to dephosphorylated back, it automatically converts to an inactive form. So this active form is phosphorylated and the dephosphorylated form is inactive. So this is an example which is coming under glycogen's metabolism. And the third type of regulation is compartmentation. Compartmentation. For example, as I told you, we know what is metabolism. It is nothing but anabolism plus catabolism. Anabolism is synthesis, catabolism is degradation. So our system will shift either only one pathway, either to an anabolism or a catabolism. So at a time, anabolism and catabolism won't take place, but anabolism is equal to catabolism. That means the rate of synthesis is equal to rate of degradation. So how it happened in our system, that is what we are going to see with an example, fatty acids and glycogen synthase. So this, how it possible for the fatty acid synthesis in one process and the glycogen storage or the degradation in the other one. So these are the two metabolic pathways they are given as an example and see what is going to do. So generally the synthetic, that is anabolic pathway, and breakdown is catabolic pathways, are operative in a different cellular organelles to achieve the maximum economy. For example, if keep on increasing the synthesis and if it keep on decreasing the increasing the degradation, at this stage what happened? Nothing is possible in the system. That means nothing is produced in our body. So only one pathway will produce. For example, whenever there is an excess of glucose, all the glucose are utilized for the energy production, and then the remaining glucose is stored in the form of glycogen. So this happened in one way. So after that, after a particular period, what happened when you starve or your system is getting deprivation of glucose in the blood? What happened? Now the stored glycogen will be converted back to glucose. So at the time, degradation process takes place. So at one particular stage, anabolism takes place. At the other next stage, it will degrade. So according to meet the requirement of glucose in our system to maintain the concentration of glucose from 80 to 120. So how it happens? That is what we are going to see, compartmentalization. So for example, in the fatty acid synthesis, the enzymes are found in the cytosol, whereas the enzymes for the fatty acid oxidation are present in the mitochondria. So synthesis in one place and the degradation in another place. So this is how it is getting compartmentalization, or it is segregated. So with that, you can able to find out only one pathway can occur at one particular organelle and the next pathway will occur in the mitochondria. This is the one way it can regulate the enzyme activity. So this is the third type of regulation. Next, Next one is control of enzyme synthesis. So this is very simple. We know that from the gene level, that is nothing but our DNA is getting transcribed and translated, and now we are getting the protein as in the circulation. So that protein is nothing. Here we consider as an enzyme. So most of the enzyme, particularly the rate limiting ones, are present in very low concentration. So rate limiting enzymes are very short lives. They help in the efficient regulation of the enzyme levels. So that is again two types. One is called constitutive enzyme, that is called housekeeping enzymes, the level of which are not controlled and remain fairly constant. Then it is called adaptive enzymes. So their concentration increase or decrease as per the body needs and are well regulated. So this synthesis of enzyme is regulated by the genes. So this is what we have to concentrate. So whenever there is a requirement, it gives the information to the gene to start the synthesis of a protein. So that again it's two types. So one we have seen constitutive enzyme means housekeeping genes. So there are some enzymes which generally maintain a normal base level concentration in a system forever. They won't change. So those type of enzymes are called constitutive enzymes. There are some enzymes which have adaptive. Adaptive means whenever it's required, it started to produce in higher amount, or whenever there is no requirement, it started to decrease their level. So how it happened? Because of the gene level, the starting place. That means the synthesis place where it is started or depressed. So that is again done by two ways, induction and repression. Induction means it is inducing the gene to start the synthesis of replication, transcription and translation, and finally our protein of interest will be synthesized in the cell. Depression or the repression is that how it controls, it stops the synthesis of your protein at the gene level is called repression. So the term induction is used to increase the synthesis of enzyme, while the repression indicates its decreased synthesis. Induction or repression ultimately determines the enzyme concentration at the gene level through the mediation of the hormones or other substances. So I told you, the gene is the place where it originates for the enzyme synthesis. So that means enzyme or nothing but it belongs to protein. So our particular gene is getting activated and it has started to produce the DNA to DNA and RNA and then protein. So now that protein is nothing but what do you want? That means what the requirement of the enzyme to the system is needed at that time. At the same time, whenever there is no requirement of the enzymes, then it also gives the signal to the genes to stop its synthesis. To stop its synthesis means it stops the replication, transcription and translation of a particular enzyme, which is nothing but a protein and the particular portion of the loci of the genes. So this is how it is regulated at the gene level. So this is one of the four type of regulation. So example here given is hormone insulin. It induces the synthesis of the enzyme called glycogen synthetase, glucokinase, phosphofructokinase and pyruvate kinase. So insulin will give the information to the gene to induce the synthesis of these type of enzyme. And the hormone cortisol, this also induces the synthesis of many enzymes, pyruvate carboxylase, tryptophan oxygenase and tyrosine aminotransferase. So all these are given for the synthesis or induction. The next one is suppression type. Suppression type in order that it stops the synthesis. For example, pyruvate carboxylase is a key enzyme in the synthesis of glucose from non-carbohydrate sources like pyruvate and amino acid. If there is a sufficient glucose available, there is no necessity for its synthesis. So what happens? It suppresses the pyruvate carboxylase enzyme by the glucose. Here the insulin and cortisol are the messenger which gives the information for the gene to synthesize these enzymes. Here the glucose concentration is enough to suppress the synthesis of the particular enzyme for its reaction, that is called pyruvate carboxylase. So pyruvate carboxylase can be suppressed when there is a sufficient amount of glucose. So these are the two ways you can expect the gene level to initiate the synthesis or suppress the synthesis of an enzyme to the body requirement. So this is the fourth type of regulation. And the last one is enzyme degradation. So our system, definitely we know that every organs and every cells have its own life span. After the lifespan, it started to degrade or it started to start cell death or whatever the apoptosis or whatever we can say proteolytic or degradation, it starts in own. How? Based on the lifespan. That means lifetime period of a particular compound. Here enzymes are not immortal since it will create a series of problems. There is a lot of variability in the half life of the individual enzymes. So based on the lifetime, it started to degrade. For example, some of the enzymes are hours, they are active in hours or minutes. For example, LDH4. What is LDH4? Lactate dehydrogenase fourth subtype. So that can be survived for only 5 to 6 days. After that, it started to degrade or lytic action happen. And for example, LDH1, that is lactate dehydrogenase type 1, it can survive for 8 to 12 hours because that is the lifespan of this enzyme. Coming to amylase, it is also 3 to 5 hours. After that, it become inactive. So if it is inactive, no reaction happens. This is a very simple concept we know very well. The enzyme should have the proper temperature, proper pH and all. The same way, the lifetime is also important for an enzyme. So what is enzyme? It's nothing a protein. It has its own lifetime, half lifetime. So within that, it will be active, and after that, it started to degrade or lysis. So these are the example given for the degradation. So naturally, instead of going for the rest of the types, all the enzymes will have its own lifespan. So within that lifespan, it's work out and then it started to lyse or degraded. So this is how the enzyme itself get degraded and it is regulated. So this is also coming under one of the regulation of the enzyme activity. So we have seen 5 different types: allosteric and compartmentization, latent and regulation at the gene level, and finally enzyme degradation. So that's all about the regulation of enzyme activity in by the living cells with its own nature and the availability and the requirement of the cells. So that's all in today's video. I hope you have understood this concept in clear manner. I'll see you in the next video with a new concept. Thank you, students.